rolling.
So anyway, I had an inkling about music, and I used to watch Lawrence Welk. And I just sit there in front of the black and white TV and just watch her play piano, and it intrigued me. I'm not sure that I wanted to play all this ragtime piano, but that's what it was at the time. You know, she played. And then I guess a few years later, somebody rang the bell at my house, and they were soliciting music lessons. They actually went door to door, and we didn't have enough room in the apartment for a piano, but they were soliciting accordion lessons. So, long story short, took a trial with like 10 lessons on a small accordion, and started with the accordion, then graduated to a bigger accordion, and studied music for like 5 years till I was about 12. And then I guess Gary Lewis and the Playboys came out with this diamond ring and all this stuff, and he had an accordion. It was like, hey, this is like semi-cool, you know, but not exactly. So then I finally went to my parents, and I, you know, like the Doors came out and everything. I went to my parents. I said, you know, do you think it's possible we can get like a keyboard or something that you play this way? You know, so I bugged them enough, and over time, for my birthday, finally they went to Sam Ash and we got a keyboard, and I was able to play this way instead of pumping the accordion. And at that time, the Doors came out, and he was playing left-hand bass, and he had that extra thing on top. So, long story short, when you play the accordion, you play the oompa, 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 and you learn to think bass. So, from the age of 7 till now, all I do is think left-hand bass and chords. And that's how I've made a living, playing, you know, keyboard and cover bands and different projects with left-hand bass and chords on the right. And I got separate. I'm not really that great a piano player per se, straight up piano, but to do left-hand bass and play chords and make a living at it and learn a million cover songs, play this, play Sinatra, play this, then, you know, so I got proficient as a musician somewhat that way.
Is that why, well, we're fast forwarding a little, getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but like when you started Radar, when you were working at Prelude and Profile with Corey Robbins and all that, and you were playing synth bass, were you, and your bass lines were killer, by the way, were you sequencing those for the most part?
No.
So like on the Tony
None
Lee,
of my records are sequenced.
because those bass lines are pretty tight. I mean, they're really tight, considering you're playing against a drum machine, which is perfect.
Perfect timing.
You know.
Well, you know, those days, prior to sequencing, the goal of the musician was timing. Your timing had to be. The studio musician was known for his timing.
Right.
He would be able to listen to a click. He'd be able to overdub something and lock into the feel, and absolutely listen and play at the same time. A lot of musicians are great players, but they have a problem like listening and playing at the same time against a beat. They may just drift off for a second, and that's going to kill a recording. You know, live, it don't matter. The audience, you know, is all excited, and it's kind of noisy. And
yeah, what do they know?
you can get away with it, you know.
I know, because I'm a drummer myself. So.
You know, so you know how it is. So I was always into this, you know, precise, learn it so precisely against the click. So I was used to being precise, you know, because I wanted to be that way, and it was a challenge constantly.
Well, I'm shocked, because listening to some of those records, you know, with the embellishments within the bass line and just how dead on it is in the pocket, I said he must have sequenced this, but I guess not.
No, I didn't. But I did. You know, it was difficult to play some of the dun 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 dun.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it really sounds. It's so staccato.
We just had to do it in segments. Had to punch in a lot. I might even have had to do 2 tracks, you know, and then bounce them into one.
No, we say we now, but because at that time, with Eric Matthews Studios, and the Radar stuff and the Prelude stuff. So you had did you have an engineer?
No.
You know, with you. I mean, when you said we punched in, you mean you punched in?
Yes.
Because it was just you.
Well, with the Gary's Gang project, which came later, Gary was lived on the next block from me, and he was a drummer, and he studied music, and you know, we got together as kids, and I said, listen, I'm trying to build this place, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to get into record production, you know, stuff. So Gary was an engineer or an assistant. I would engineer, and he would play some drum parts, or he would engineer, and I would do all the vocals, because the whole Gary's Gang was just me on the vocals, and most of the instruments, except for a friend of mine who played the congas and timbales.
Okay,
and Gary
so
was the drummer.
so we're going back to the incarnation of the first two albums before we get to the later Radar stuff. So we're going back here. So that first album, wasn't it this guy Reeno Manetti on keys or
after the fact?
After the
no,
fact.
not really. The way it went down was when disco was flying high.
Mm-hmm.
You could get a record deal easier than any other time prior to that, because you could make a recording that didn't necessarily have to have some kind of flamboyant rock band to go with it.
Right.
You made a recording.
Studio project.
Yeah, studio project. And, hopefully if you had a singer that would stay with you was fine. But, so basically I decided to be the singer, even though I'm not, quote, the great singer.
Yeah, but you pulled it off. And
well, Casey and the Sunshine Band was
he wasn't a great singer either, but he
why
wrote good songs.
He was my idol.
Okay, I didn't know that.
He was able to manufacture, and this is what most writers do. If they're going to sing it, they're going to write something that they can sing.
Absolutely.
They're going to limit it to whatever it is. It could be 3 notes, 5 notes.
That's the way they do that.
And make it catchy. So that's I had to figure out how to do that. Because I'm not a screamer, and and I'm not a heartfelt. It's not going to come out like. So that's how it went down with that. Now, I made the master, and Gary was my assistant producer, and
the
we
drummer?
and he co-wrote the song,
And he played the
and
drums.
he played the drums, and in the case of Keep On Dancing specifically, well, the album he played the drums. Keep On Dancing specifically was, I didn't have enough equipment or the right equipment to get a decent bass drum sound, and in those days you had to have a really good.
Oh yeah, that's the.
I did not have that, but I did have a loop of a bass drum on a record I did at Green Street Studios in Manhattan with Corey. We did this song called Doing the Best That I Can by Betty LaVette.
I have that record.
On West End.
Yeah, I have that record.
That's my record. I did with me and Corey did that. Me and Corey were partners for a while. A thing called Our First Production Company, and we started, But anyway, I had 4 beats on a tape that I literally spliced together, made a literal loop. I mean, my finger was holding the loop to keep tension on the reel-to-reel as we hit play and got it on track 16 of the multi-track.
So wait, is it just the kick drum or the whole drum kit?
Just the kick drum. The kick
so
drum.
You added the snare and all that shit later?
Yes. The kick drum, okay. I put 7 minutes of kick drum on tape.
Wow.
So I don't even know what the BPMs were. They were probably like 127 and a third. Who knows?
And it wasn't played to a click, that bass drum, or was it?
No, that bass drum became the click.
Once you copied it, then it became tighter. But on the original record, there was no click reference, right?
On the Betty LaVette, I'm not sure. That I don't remember.
Okay. Some people back then were using clicks and some weren't.
Some weren't.
And you can tell, when a record, the tempo is not the same by the end of the song as it was when it started.
If you're using, my take on it is, if you're using a rhythm section live, like a drummer, a guitar, and a bass, live without a click, musicians have a tendency to get a little faster.
Sure.
As the song goes on.
Absolutely.
It might even go faster when a chorus comes in, and they might even slow down when the verse comes in, naturally. If you're going to do it piece by piece, like maybe piano and drums first, you're better off using a click. And I believe we might have used a click with the Betty LaVette song.
And then the rest of the Gary's Gang album is, you did the same kick drum, or you just?
No, at that point, because we sold the record, now we got a couple
you got
of
money.
bucks.
I got you. Okay.
Now I can get a mic for the bass drum and
So it's just the first single.
Just
Keep
the
on
first
dancing.
single. Yeah, of course the biggest one.
Right.
Had I sang it on an SM58 Shure microphone. That's all I had. I had a spring reverb. I had a spring reverb. I had one Altec limiter, like an old tube limiter.
And what board were you going through?
Don't ask.
It
was called a Stevenson. It was basically a PA board.
Live board
for
okay.
a band.
Okay.
A live board. I had an 8-channel one, and then I found another one, and then I got a 16 frame and made it a 16. So it was tiny. I have some pictures of these.
I love to see the pictures.
And I started off prior to Gary's Gang. I started off with an 8-track, Ampex 8-track, 1-inch tape.
That's good bandwidth.
Yes, I was making demos, but I had 8 tracks,
Yeah,
so I would have to bounce, and and then if you changed an ID, you couldn't go back, and it was over.
It's tough.
Yeah, so I knew I couldn't make records on that, but I got very good sounding demos and experience with that.
So about at the time with Gary's Gang, when you bought the 16-track 2-inch, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
And you told Dick Clark in that American Bandstand interview that it cost you guys
$10,000 we said on the show.
And that's $1978.
Yeah.
So you guys can do the math. The inflation there. That's a lot of money back then for guys just starting out, so to speak.
Well, the way we pulled it off was me and Gary would come in the room, and I said, listen, man, we got to try to do something. We're going to need to go 16 tracks somehow. I got a call from a friend. He said that Columbia Studios was selling all their 16 tracks, and they were moving up to 24 tracks.
Nice.
So there was like 10 of these things in a hallway.
Wow.
At the office building in the city, the Black Rock. So like they're $10,000 each. Pick one.
Wow.
So I said to Gary, maybe you could come up with 5, I can come up with 5, and we can pull this off. So I think I either I got money from my parents or he got money from his parents, made a loan, and we went in and we bought
bank
this.
loan.
No, I don't know if my parents.
Oh,
had
just
to do
a parent loan.
I don't know.
And this
I'm not sure that the parents had that kind of cash laying around.
And this is before you had the hit to pay off.
Oh, this is struggle times. This is all struggle times.
And you guys got that machine, and you put together your little studio, and you put together a record on a shoestring budget. It just happened to make the top. What was it? Top 10 on the pop charts? Top 20? I don't remember.
No, on Billboard's top 40 was like 41.
But on the dance charts, it was right up there.
Dance charts was number 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, easily. And in New York, the regional, it was like number 11.
It was
or
everywhere.
And
it was everywhere.
I'll never forget. I've already had some songs that were already playing on KTU and BLS already. I had some stuff prior to that,
which I'd like to. You got to hit me to that stuff because I'm not.
Yeah, I got to think of it, but so I wasn't a total stranger to having something going on.
Gotcha.
So Keep On Dancing took off rather fast. The clubs loved it, and it crossed over. We got on the mix shows late at night real fast, and then they started adding it, quickly.
So like on a shoestring budget, that record probably it brought in, 10, 20-fold what it cost to make, I'm guessing, right?
Well, of course. I mean, we didn't sell it for much. I think the advance at the time was like $2,500 for the record.
But it was on Sam Records first, Sam Weiss's label, and then it got picked up by Columbia.
Right. Well, what happened was we shopped it to everybody.
Yeah.
South Soul, Columbia, and they held on to it really long. And every time I would follow up, they would say, we're listening to it. We can't say yes, we can't say no, But one by one, they dropped out. Now, I felt they dropped out because there was no political support for it. Because the kid, me, was unknown, had no prior, like, who is this guy? And so it wasn't that easy. Even though the record had it, they wouldn't just sign, like, totally. I had no following like today's equivalent would be like a following,
No social media.
Yeah. But even without social media, they didn't know. They would say, "Who's this guy?" So we got it back. Columbia had the record, and they sent it back. They passed on it. So on the way home from the city and driving into the city, and we're from Queens. Traffic. Double park, Gary, you run up, play it for him, I'll park the car, and then you park the car, I'll run up. So I was tired, I came back, we crossed the bridge into Long Island City, Queens, and I said, I know there's a small distributor here or something, he's got some kind of label thing going on, let's just stop in. Before we go home, let's just give it a shot. All right, we pull up, I got the address. I said, I'll be in the car, I'm exhausted, I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to crash in the car, you go in and see what happens. He went in. And he didn't come out. Like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40. Finally, he comes out. He says, he liked the record. He said, come up with a B-side, and you got a deal. So I woke up. quickly. All right, get in the car. We got to make another record. You know, the B-side.
Do it at the disco?
Yes.
Okay.
It was like an It was like done in like 4 hours, like 5 hours. It was really quick.
You wrote it and recorded it?
Yeah, like
you didn't have anything written. You just
No. I'd say realistically maybe 10 hours from top to bottom. Yeah, because, you know, the money's waiting for you. Wait to sign the deal, you know, and if the B-side is going to make it happen, you know, just do it.
And by the way, I don't think that's a bad song for what it is.
It is what it is.
You threw it together, but it's cute.
Yeah, it's a little hokey here and there. It's got some good, nice musical parts to it that carried it through.
Yeah, like the horn, little.
It's been, you know, but you know, so that's how the deal got started. So when Sam pressed up the 12 inches and serviced all the DJ record pools, it was just moving quick. The reaction was like bang, 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 bang. It was only about 3 weeks into it where he turned around and made a deal with Columbia, CBS, you know, Sony.
But did Columbia approach Sam, or did I mean, because they passed on the record at first, so they
but
we changed our mind, you know, let's.
Well, it isn't always the same person, and I don't know whether they called up and said, "Let's grab it now because it's breaking," you know, and it's a hit. It's I don't know if it was initiated by Sam or maybe Sam. I can't say this for sure, but maybe Sam felt that it was a little too big for him to handle. It might be better off to grab it while it's hot, sell it to a big company, you know, which he did. And it was like a 10-year deal. He got it back after that, which it now belongs to Nervous and Michael.
His son,
it just sits there in the catalog, and you know, so it happened really quick. That's what it was. You know, that I had to put a band together, but nobody really played on the record, like Reeno Minetti, Al Lorisella. These were all friends of mine from down the block. This is like a Motown house, and you know, like Diana Ross lives a block and a half over here. You know, Marvin Gaye lives next to the grocery store. You know, and they're on the block, and they're like, "Well, listen, guys, I got this hit record happening. You know, you're used to, and don't forget, I was in a band prior to that, doing local parties and stuff. Constantly, always had a band playing. You know, weddings and parties.
So you had your chops together.
That's
why you were able to make these records, because you had the chops already.
That's right. I was already playing bass. I was already covering a million songs. I was in tune, and the disco thing was in your face. You know,
it's right there, and you know.
I was part of the pulse. You know.
Now, you guys did make a second album, but it was more kind of rock oriented.
Well, here's the problem with the second album. It's probably some of the worst songs.
I blame Columbia Records for that. I don't have the album, by the way, but I heard a couple of tracks.
It's a horrible album, you know. It's a horrible album, and it was a time of confusion for me personally, because I was basically driving the creative process. So at the time, I think Queen had like Another One Bites the Dust, and the Stones had Miss You, right? So these rock bands were happening on the dance thing with the four on the floor, but not in a disco way.
Right.
In a rock way, like a super
danceable rock.
Danceable rock in a cool way, you know. And that's great, and I love all that stuff. But they're telling me, all right, listen, you got to do something rock, you know.
This is it. I knew I was going to blame the label even before you told me, because the labels always try to push an artist in the direction of what they think is hot at the time. Not that I'm speaking from my own experience, because I've never been signed to a.
But you know.
But I know enough artists that have told the same story. Yeah, they pushed us to do this.
You know, Danny Glass was Sam's son-in-law, I believe, and I think they still are. But and Danny's a great guy, but he got all hyped up by the success of Queen and all these other things, and he said, "You got to do this. You got to do this." Now they're looking at it from a producer's they're talking to me as a producer, and if I was to do that, I should have started another act to do that.
Right.
But Gary's Gang already had a sound. It had this Latin, pop, disco, dance, you know, melodic thing going on. And it was a thing that started, and you know, it was born, and it kind of developed, but it never developed to a second album. It never was taken to the next level. It was kind of thwarted, you know, with a conversation that said, well, this is what's a hit now. And
they always do that, don't they?
It seems that way. It seems that way. But if you're a producer and you're producing, you know, Susie and Johnny and this, and you got to change styles and change gears, that's fine. But when you take an act that is known worldwide as having a certain sound. You can alter it, you can change it a little bit, you can update it, you can add something, but you can't drastically come in from left field and do it. You know? So, and at that time, I stopped even being the singer on it. I had another guy singing that could sing more of this rock stuff, and it was a total flop. It was a mess.
Did they even cover the cost of the manufacturing on that, or was it a total wash?
It was well, unfortunately, the way the deal was structured, and I'm like 27 years old at the time. I signed to Sam. Sam signed to Columbia. So whatever happened at the Columbia end, I had no privy to. If they gave him some money for an album, my album budget for Keep on Dancing was $12,500, and for that I had to create the whole album.
Wow.
I mean, I had my own studio, but that doesn't matter. Who knows? On his end, numbers at the time were like $125,000 for an album.
Which in album budgets, the studio is a huge part of the budget usually, and you would think because you saved them so much money, you saved the label so much money doing it all at your own studio that maybe things might be.
No, nice don't work. And there's no consideration for that.
Okay.
It's just black and white numbers. Okay,
Right.
This is what it is. This is what it is. If you happen to have your own place, fine. But my own place still costs me money. I still, between the everything. So anyway, so on the second album, I'm sure Sam got his advance, and my budget was maybe the second album was like $25,000. Okay, but the album flopped.
So there goes that 25,000.
Yeah, I mean, I got it, and I got it, and I produced it. I spent time producing it, but there was nothing in addition to that because it didn't sell.
And the label didn't try to recoup that from you? The 25,000?
No, they can't. They can't take from what you don't have. I mean,
Okay.
but here's the thing. I didn't really get any statements. Sam Records was contractually required to send statements. Never got statements. Never got statements. And and then when everything went digital and the world moved on, and we got into iTunes and everything online, never saw any statements for anything that I have online as we speak.
We're going back before Gary's Gang here. We want to talk about some notable stuff that I didn't even know about.
Like Godfather 2. It was the story before.
The story before. The prequel.
Just real quick. I was doing demos in the garage with the A-Track, and I had an ad in a magazine, and Corey Robbins was working at MCA Music Publishing. He gives me a call. He says, listen, if you're making demos, you're listening to people's songs, if you hear anything that's good, pass it along to me, because I'm in the music publishing business. So I did that. I'm making these demos. I passed him a couple of songs. Long story short, out of like 10 songs, he goes, these songs are terrible, but I love the production. Have you ever thought about producing records? So I said, well, I know I wanted to make music, but I didn't know exactly, what producing records actually meant with business and everything. So long story short, we started a partnership. It was called Our First Production Company. And the first project we did was Let It In. Keep it up. I forget. It's way back. I have to look it up though. But we actually sold it to Warren Schatz, who was A&R at RCA. He did Turn the Beat Around. Warren was a funny guy, great guy. He's telling us stories of how he did Turn the Beat Around. He had the horn section and the strings in his bathroom in the city with the tile. And it had and the strings. He had 4 violin players in there, and he opened.
Wait, for the actual record or for the demo?
No, for the record.
I thought he did that all at RCA.
No, he did that after he mixed it over there. But the
okay.
recording, that's how he told us he did it. That's how we did it.
All right,
he
then.
did it in his apartment. So
who knew? So wait, you're not the first to do this home recording thing.
No,
you're killing my no.
No,
but, no, but all right, but that was around the same time.
Well, yeah, okay. So Keep It Up. What was it? Keep It Up. I think it was Keep It Up, and I forget the name of the. We made a front. Was it Front Page? No, front page was Love Insurance. That was
Right,
another,
right.
That was something else.
But that's right. So you were involved in it.
I was involved in that. I didn't produce it. It was Corey's project, but he called me in. Sharon Red was the vocalist.
Oh, but you see, we're connecting a lot of dots here.
Yeah.
For the people watching, Corey Robbins went on to found Profile Records, which we all know and love.
Know and love.
and then Sharon Red is someone that you worked closely with. We'll get to that later too.
Right.
But yeah.
But real story, just to end the story about the partnership. So we did that record. We sold it to the RCA. It didn't do well. We did another record. Corey said, I got this song, Doing the Best That I Can. It's like a country song. And I have this vocalist, Betty Levette, who's still around. And we went into Green Street Studios and we made this record called Doing the Best That I Can. And we made the deal with West End Records, Mel and Ed at West End, and they put the record out, and it was okay. It came out, it went like number 12 on the dance chart, but it didn't fly. And the label says we're going to have Walter Gibbons, a DJ, remix it. So, okay, I've never had that experience before, having somebody take your work,
somebody else
rip it apart.
Yeah.
So he does the remix. And he said, come in, guys, I'll let you hear what he did. They play this thing, and I don't know what he did. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why he did it or what he did with it. Everything was inside out. There was leakage. There was reverb. There was tambourines flying all over the place. There was edits that didn't work, or to me it didn't work. And it just went on, and it was all backwards. The verses had no bass in it. Anything like opposite, I would think. It went to number 1 on the dance chart. No questions asked. Boom. Paradise Garage. Bang. Number 1. Number 1.
And because that record, I was just on Discogs a couple of weeks ago and I saw someone made a note of it that, okay, this is the original mix on this pressing, then the Walter Gibbons mix on the second pressing, and both pressings have the same catalog number, whatever. It was very confusing to me, but I guess now I understand. So your original mix came out, though.
It was released and it charted.
But it didn't.
It wasn't flying high. It was like number 15. It was struggling.
So here, we're kind of repeating ourselves. It's my fault here, and that's why the remix was commissioned.
Yes.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Why this.
But the important thing for me personally is when I heard the remix of all the nuances that I had created for the record, my head spun around. And then after digesting it, I said, I've learned so much from the perspective of the DJ with the crowd in the room at the moment that it's priceless information what he did. So,
not to cut, and this leads into how you had the second chapter that we're going to get into of your career, where you were remixing other people's records. Mixed by Eric Matthew.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is what you learned from him. You started building upon that.
Absolutely. Well, it was a combination. In my opinion, in that particular mix, he lacked some sonic quality,
right,
and levels. The levels were technically they were off, but a lot of people could fix that.
True.
But not a lot of people could create the craziness of what he did with the editing and how this happened after this happened.
Non-linear, so we say.
So what I tried to do was incorporate the craziness and the envision of the crowd as you're playing it. What would happen next now? If the crowd is having a good time, what would they want to hear next is how you would do it, whether the song was originally recorded in that sequence or not.
Which leads me to, we're progressing right into the next batch of questions, is when you started doing work for Corey at Profile. You did work at Prelude, and then subsequently at the same time, you started your own label, Radar Records, and you were doing all this at the same time. You were a busy man, but the whole thing was predicated on you were getting remix work. And then this is during a time where you had guys like Shep Pettibone and T. Scott, Larry Levan,
Francois,
one of the best.
Yeah.
And who else? I could think of a couple other. My personal favorites, along with you, is Martinelli and Todd. I think their mixes were so polished. And we talk about, you said sonics and all that. that is where we're talking about, like the polished. You can still have the edge of the mix
Right.
ready for the dance floor, but it's also that polish that makes it you want to listen to it at home
Right.
instead of a dance
Right.
thing.
That's the whole
So
thing.
but to me, your mixes were right up there in terms of polish and dance floor edge to me. So obviously you learned a lot from what you heard.
It was a tremendous smack in the face, but it was a good one. It was like, wake up.
Right.
Boom. This isn't like do, re, mi. You know, this is like you've got music in you, but you got to get it to the crowd and you got to get that vibe, that what they're feeling at the moment. So let me give you a quick example. There was, you have a question for me? You want to?
No, I don't want to break your train of thought.
No, it's just that after I started to go out and do more projects after Keep On Dancing, we had a couple of projects with Ray Caviano.
RFC.
Right. The first one we had was Tracy Weber.
On Quality Records?
Yeah, on Quality.
I have the record.
Yes. I have it in
Sure Shot.
That's the second one.
Okay, there's
that was
one
the B-side.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a Larry Levine mix, though. That
He did
Sure
it.
Shot.
Yeah, he did it over.
Okay.
Because Ray had a system. You know, you writers, you're the writers, you're the producers, and Larry, you know, let it mix it. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't remember that. Anyway, so it was two songs. It was a double hit single. Like in other words, the 12-inch had both songs on it. It was a B-side, and that's how it put out. But the interesting thing was that in the middle of the project, Ray Caviano says, "Okay, meet me in the city. We'll go in. We used to go to the Paradise Garage with a reel-to-reel tape. He didn't even press up anything. You're not even a dub anything. He'd go up to the booth. We'd work our way up to the booth in the craziness, right? There's 3,000 people dancing with 4 sound towers piling in the middle.
And it was loud, wasn't it?
Loud. No alcohol, all fruit juice.
That's right. And how did you penetrate Larry's universe? Because he wasn't an easy guy to approach.
Because Caviano,
okay. That was your in.
It was and it wasn't a guaranteed in. Even though at his level, we'd pull up with a limo.
Yeah.
You know, we'd get out of the car. We got to see Larry. We got to go see Larry with a record label. You know, blah blah blah. And we went up the stairs, and he had the turntable hanging on chains. You know, so that the vibration wouldn't make the needle skip. And he had a reel to reel, and he goes, "Larry, you got to give this record a shot." He goes, "No, I can't do it. Wait, not now. You know how it is when you're in the middle of a set. You know, he's got like 3,000 people." So eventually he put the reel to reel up. He goes, "What is it?" He goes, "Like 124. So he puts it up there, and he spun it. And we watched the crowd. And we watched the crowd react. And somewhere in the middle, the middle breakdown in the middle was too long, you know? And I said, I wish it would just come back right now. And the perspective of watching the people and listening to the music and their reaction, all right, we finished the record, go home. A week later, I took it home, and we had to edit with the razor blade. Whoop, 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 like this. Cut that part out, go back to Larry, go through the whole process again. Yeah, we're the record label. We want to see Larry. Go upstairs. Larry, can you play it? No, not now. You know, you gotta blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And put it up on the machine. Finally, it starts. We're watching the crowd. We watch the crowd. And, like, we're into it, like 5 minutes, 6-minute songs that you held it. It's holding. Like 6 minutes. Bam, it's finished. The next record's out. That's it. That's the edit. That's the cut. You know. And that was the length of it. And that's how we would have it, a little pre-market test. And that was quite an experience watching that.
And that was going to be a question, but you answered it for me, that you were such a good remixer. Well, you must have frequented one of these clubs, and there's my answer. So did you do that with other records too? Test it out in the club, or by then you knew what to do?
It's more like I had a feel of what to do. I didn't go out. I probably wouldn't have gone out to that club unless, Ray said, come on. He knew better. As a businessman, he knew that you got to take the creative guy and smack him around, wake him up, and say, look, you're good, but you got to watch what goes on here.
And it's funny because, like you just said, you wouldn't have gone to that club. But meanwhile, even though I didn't go to that club, I was too young at the time, or I didn't know about it, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But that club is where I would pretty much say the majority of your records were played on a regular basis at that club.
Yeah.
So we got to give it to Larry. What can I say? I'm a nostalgic man. I really dig that era of dance music, and if you want to say R&B, it's really R&B, danceable R&B, as
Yeah,
Mel
so
Sharon.
with a beat. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, post disco. Now they call it boogie funk. The Europeans have their own terminology for it. But so at this time, you were well on your way. You're doing all this remix work for Prelude and Profile, and then Radar Records. You were
Right.
doing your own stuff there.
But one point on the remixing, it's very important that I noticed that Larry, Shep, and Francois, they knew when not to remix something. They knew what to add in just enough to bring this thing home and not overdo it. Like, it wasn't an ego thing. It's like they didn't have to put their trademark on it or put something in because it's them, just because they wanted to throw it in. They actually did what was right for the song through the eyes of the producer, but like an extended vision. Okay, I got your essence of what you're doing. I just want to extend this break, a couple of bars, take the bass out, then bring the bass in. You know, they really knew what they would. It came from the heart. So it was an interesting period.
Absolutely.
It was an interesting period.
But with you, since you were the producer on your records and the remixer, in most cases, not all cases, but at least on the Radar stuff, that how were you able to separate, or did you separate the production end from the mixing end? Because me personally, I don't separate them, because to me the mix is part of the production.
Yeah,
especially with dance music.
Yeah, well, it's you try to set out producing it the way it will be, knowing that there is a possibility that there's some kind of thing that could make this better if you put the end in the beginning and the beginning in the end. In those days, you couldn't do what you do on computers. You could easily cut and paste it and test it out. Then, I mean, how do you even hear that? You know, you make a cassette of it, you know, pause it and play it, you know, and see if it even works. You try to conceive it the way it's going to be. And the thing is that if you conceive it the way it's going to be, then you got to be experienced, knowing how this is going to play in front of a crowd for the first time that they've never heard it, because otherwise it'll never get heard. You know what I'm saying? Are the vocals loud enough?
Right, all that.
Can we get the title in there? Can you hear on the first play? Is there any question about what
Can you hear
they
the
say?
lyrics?
You know.
So like with your label, for instance, when you were doing your mixes of the earlier stuff like Tony Lee and all, Reach Up. So at some point, I mean, you're the producer, you're the label owner, and you're the remixer. You're all three. You're wearing all the hats, and you're playing all the instruments. You have, I mean, I'm sure you did more than one mix for each time you did a mix, and you said, okay, that's the mix. I mean, you didn't drive yourself nuts with 12 mixes like, you know, Larry used to go to a studio and
Not 12, but, you know.
it's an arbitrary number I'm picking.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I might do 12 now, but.
But at the time, like when you doing a mix, you say, okay,
two or three.
you say, okay, that's it, that works for me. You're oh yeah, I like that.
Pretty much, yes. Well, because look, if you're the one that is paying for you own the studio, you're paying the rent, you're paying the bills, the electric, you got the air conditioning running, you're going to press up 12 inches, you're going to do an immediate run and send it to the distributor. You're going to go through this major expense. You're not getting money for selling the record like I used to. You're now paying money. So now you're really on the case. Is this right? Can it be better? You know, you're really like focused.
Right. And back then,
The first record out of the gate with Radar was Knock Me Out, Gary's Gary.
right, was you.
Now, it was kind of a smooth, you know, kind of a low-key kind of a record. It was okay. It was well done, and it made some noise for the label. KTU played it. You know, it did great in France. It was like a monster record in France.
Yep.
I licensed it to, I was doing business with the Two Peters in Amsterdam, and they kind of covered Europe for me. And it did well. It wasn't a monster hit, but it did sell units. And if you're a small company selling these 12 inches, you know, you make $1 a shot profit. You know, they used to sell for $2 1/4.
Yeah.
It used to cost you about $1 to make them. That's the nitty gritty. That's the back office. So if you did 30,000, 40,000 records for a small label, a 2-person label, you can make a bit of money and work on your next project.
Well, like for you domestically, when you used to press up for Radar, would you do 20,000 per release? I mean, how many did you typically do?
I'll give you the sales numbers as I remember them. Gary's Gang probably did about 30,000
Locally?
Sold in the United States. Yeah,
Okay.
this is all domestic now. Whatever came in foreign is gravy.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah,
I'd
no.
rather focus on.
Just to the United States.
Yeah.
It did about 30,000. Now, the next record out of the gate was Reach Up.
Must have done at least.
Now, that did like, I don't know, 120,000.
You pressed 120,000?
Yeah.
Wow, no wonder I can find that record easily.
Yeah, it's around. And the third record out of the gate was You Ain't Really Down, Status 4.
I love that too, yeah.
You know, which Tony knew these guys from Brooklyn, and me and Tony wrote the song, and they did that vocal arrangement and that craziness.
Fantastic.
You know, so that was the third one out. Then after that, we went downhill. We started to put out things that weren't that good. I forgot what the fourth one was. I took in a record from somebody else that they produced it. I was so overwhelmed with the business and everything else that I lost my creative edge.
That it did. Okay, you were taking in other artists.
Other productions.
And other productions like Breaking in Space. I happen to like that
Breaking in
record.
Space. I like that. It was a nice finished, polished
That
product.
didn't do well?
It did okay.
Okay, just okay.
Just okay, yeah.
Because to me, that's an interesting record because it's got the electro element, it's got the whole urban element, but then it has monster sax solos on it, which is not something you would hear on a record like that.
No, that press was
much.
a local guy, Najee from Hempstead.
Najee, right?
Yeah.
He had a solo career later, right?
Yes, he was good.
Yeah. So the records that didn't do well, I probably have them, but I probably wouldn't. I probably like them even though they didn't do well.
Richie Scotti, The Break.
Oh, okay. Who was that guy?
He was a DJ.
The guy rapping on.
Yeah.
It's a funny record.
Yeah, it is. And that was taking it, you know.
That didn't take off that one.
No, but what happened in the middle of Radar, the world changed and the music business changed drastically. And what happened was Arista Records, an independent label, Motown Records, an independent label, made deals with majors.
And they sold the catalogs to.
They went to distribute through the majors.
All right.
So now all the distributors in the country that were distributing our record, along with Motown, along with Arista, we had all this Barry Manilow stuff coming through, and all the Motown catalog and Michael Jackson just went away. So all these guys went out of business. They couldn't exist on the Radar and the Tommy Boys. And it wasn't enough to pay the rent in a big warehouse. So now we were, there was no place to go. These guys went Chapter 11. Radar took a hit, like 50 grand. They got Progressive in Chicago, was a distributor in Chicago. Kept ordering Tony Lee's, kept ordering Status, but didn't pay the bill. In a matter of 30 days, the bill was up to like $45,000. And next thing you know, he goes out, bankrupt, Chapter 11. He's not paying the bills. Of course, he's stalling now, a couple of months. There's a stall. Keep calling him up. You got to send me some money. An independent label has to pay the pressing plant. They want cash. And once you do that, you got to collect. You got 30 days, 45 days. If it wasn't for Malvern, my main distributor, Malvern was a great guy in Long Island City. He covered from Boston to like South Carolina. He got all of that in there, and he was great. He would pay right on time. He kept us in business. But everybody else, I didn't have much to say about them. I had a guy in Florida, a guy in LA. They were all sluggish paying. So it was a tough business.
So I guess that led to you folding Radar after a couple of years because it got hard, it got unsustainable, I guess.
You take a hit.
Once, and then...
Yeah, but you take a hit. You expect $50,000 to come in, which you can budget. Well, we got some rent. We got to do this. We got to...
It doesn't come in.
It all stops.
So belly up for Radar.
Yep.
And that was about
85.
Yeah. And it wasn't until many years later where Unidisc approached you, I'm guessing. Unidisc.
He wanted to buy the catalog. Yeah.
He bought every New York catalog he could get his hands on.
Yeah, I know. And I actually flew up to Montreal, George
Cucuzella, yeah.
And spent a week with Tavares, re-recording all their songs. George, the catalog wasn't available for him to purchase.
So he re-recorded
it. I'm just going to re-record it. So I did, for a paycheck, I did tracks down here As a matter of fact, I think I did them in this house. And, Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel, It Only Takes a Minute, Girl. Created all the music tracks. Took them all up to Canada, and then spent a week with the guys to George's studio, and then did the vocals over again.
So you redid all those 70s songs,
Yep.
but on 80s technology.
Yeah, I didn't have the budget, or I didn't do like real strings. I didn't do real horns. Dun, 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 dun,
So you played it all on the synth?
I played it all, yeah, on the synth. And by then I was doing some sequencing, so now I had I was getting familiar with the sequencing process.
I haven't heard those versions. I should look into it because they probably sound very different from the original.
Yeah, they probably sound chintzy and cheaper, than the originals. You can't beat the originals. I mean, I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the guys were sweethearts to work with. And they were fresh because they were older, but they were fresh because they do gigs and they're fresh with the harmonies and stuff.
And they always had good vocals. They were always very
Yeah, I
strong,
love
right?
their sound,
They always had it.
So I spent some time up there doing that.
So, okay, we're going back and forth here, but so yeah, Unidisc approaches you, you sell the catalog off, and who knew at the time, not just you, but all these other labels, Prelude and Beckett, Prism, all the New York labels, which were dormant for quite some time.
Yeah.
And at the time, nobody thought anybody'd be interested in that music. So they were able to get all these catalogs. And
And that's what he did. He decided to, he wanted to be the king of catalog. Matter of fact, I used to go up there and used to watch him in the back room. They had guys with reel-to-reels playing the masters and transfer them to CDs. They were burning CDs to digitize whatever catalog music he had.
Because they knew those tapes wouldn't last forever.
Sure.
But the thing is, the early days of when they got those catalogs, the first few remasters they put out, they didn't. The mastering wasn't very good. Either it was over compressed, or it was over EQ'd. It just didn't sound right to me.
Yeah, I know.
But
I can't speak for what they do.
I think they got it right after a few
know.
years. But anyway, in any case, so let's go back. When you started when you started Radar, you were doing a lot of stuff at Profile and Prelude as well.
Well, here's the thing. You have the company. You're doing your own stuff. You put the record out. I had a partner who was a cousin of mine that was doing the administration of Radar. Unfortunately, he oversold and didn't collect and didn't hold back shipments to get some money. But anyway, that's another story. But if I got a call to do a project and it took 4 days, I'm going to do it for money because I do this full time. Family, mortgage. Now I'm married. I have a family. I have a kid. So project comes in, there's 2,000 here, there's 3,000 there, there's 500 here, whatever it is, just go. We're going to do it. I can do it tonight. Let's do it tonight. So, I did stuff. I teamed up for a little while with Daryl Payne.
Daryl Payne.
Okay. Daryl Payne, he was a good salesman. He sold, he was able to go to labels and talk up a big talk. Talked up a big talk with me too, but that's another story. Mm-hmm. But we did have some success together, for example, we had
On a Journey, that one.
Yes, but let's go to BECKET Records where we had
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yes, Thanks to You.
Thanks to You.
Yeah,
Thanks to You.
That's a good one.
Now we had this track going, and long story short, Keith Diamond, who wrote Caribbean Queen, wrote the lyrics for Cinnamon on Thanks to You. Daryl played on the track, and he came back with a set of lyrics that were like smoking. Mm-hmm. Thanks to you, I found somebody new. That's the concept. It's like a twist.
And that record did well. That was a big record.
It went, yeah.
And then Shep Pettibone did the mix, or did you do the mix?
I think Shep.
There was a Shep mix on there.
I delivered a really good mix. I'm not sure which one they went with, or they might have went with both. I don't recall. But Shep would always keep the integrity of the producer's vision, regardless. That's why I can't. That's why it's not like Walter Gibbons where he twisted it all around.
Right.
In that case, it was okay because at that point I was composing and arranging it in the way that with the breakdowns already in it stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that Shep. His mixes weren't radical. They hit the spot. Just like yours.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes a radical mix is, like you said, is not what you need for the song.
Right.
So, Yeah, Cinnamon. That's a good one.
That was a good one. So
Yeah,
a lot of these, well, most of these records went to number one. Like everything we did went to number one. I must have went to number one on the dance chart about 12 times.
yeah.
If you count Tony Lee, you count the Cinnamon record went to number one, and then we did all the Sharon West, the Tracy Webbers.
Right.
Both of them went to number one. Sure Shot and I can't.
You still,
I'm still with that blank one. I'm gonna go pull that up.
But the On a Journey didn't do that well.
On a Journey was okay.
You know that Dead Mancuso loved that record.
Yeah. It was.
That was a loft record.
Yes. I loved making it because it was so wild and crazy.
Is that you or Daryl playing most of that on there?
Daryl doesn't play anything.
Okay, so that was all you.
It's all me.
And that was sequenced. There's a lot of sequence stuff on
I'm
there.
sure it was. I'm sure it was. By that time, I had a little. I think it was. What year was that? Do you know? I don't even know.
The record's right there.
Yeah.
I think it's 83.
Yeah.
You can show us. I think it was 83, and I guess
I wasn't sequencing in 83. No, but I had the drum machine.
The LM1.
Yes.
And
serial number 099. Something like that.
Here's the sad part. When did you let all that stuff go?
Oh, when did I let it go? I don't know when I let it go. And a period of distress, I'm sure.
And well, you know what those go for these days, or
I
do
have
you?
not a clue.
The LM1s, because only 500 were made.
Yeah.
And the whole mystique that Prince used it on everything.
Yeah.
Coupled with the rarity of it.
Yeah.
In good condition, they can go for like $7,000 now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I don't have one. I have a Lindrum, which is the second incarnation, but the LM1 is astronomically.
I paid $5,000 for that. Now let me tell you how it came to be. It just happened to be I was looking at a Billboard magazine, and it said meet. It was a picture of like a major artist. I forget who it was. It said meet the drummer on the record, and then it was the machine. Now we knew previous to that we had beat boxes, like drum boxes.
The organ, yeah, right.
You know, you just press rumba, cha-cha, you know.
Yeah.
But this is programmable.
Yeah.
You know, it had a nice fat sound. You could tune it.
Yeah.
You know, in the back. I said, oh my God, I don't have to deal with a musician, drummer, which is critical.
But you could have called Gary.
Gary was good, but you had every song you had to mic the drums. It
was a
hours.
pain in the ass. And you had to churn out product. That
quickly. Yeah, Gary was gone by now.
Okay, it was just you. That's true.
Yeah,
you were on your own.
So I said, "Oh my God, this is like heaven sent."
Yeah, God sent. Look at this.
Yeah. So if you could program your 3.5, 4-minute thing where the fills are and lay that down, and just play everything on top of it.
Although song mode on a drum machine is a pain in the ass. I think.
Everything's a pain in the ass, but you know.
But you did it, and
I did it. And you come up with like a Beat the Street or something, you know.
Oh well, we're gonna get into that, the Sharon Red stuff. But by that time, so. The bulk of the sounds, like we talked about before, was that drum machine and the Prophet 5.
Yes.
What led you to the Prophet 5? Was just availability?
Whatever. Well,
you could have gone with an Oberheim or something like that at the time.
I don't know. I got familiar with that one. It served a purpose, you know, for what I needed. And I know how much of a gear freak you are.
I have one.
I know that. But my approach is not so much... I find that gear, I use whatever gear is just necessary to get the job done. I can't put any energy or time into gear choices when I'm focusing on, should I go to this chord or that melody? Should it go up higher or over here? So my approach is more of a musical approach, which is not necessarily better than a gear approach, depending on the song. You need to have both.
Right, but at the time there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to choose from anyway.
I had a mini Moog, you know, collecting dust, a single thing that Gary's gang did, you know, multiple tracks with that.
And it's not like now where you have a multitude of.
I just remembered a piece of equipment I had. I had it was called a symphonizer. It was a string machine.
Oh.
It wasn't a Mellotron like Knights in White Satin. You know, which is
the tape machine.
It wasn't the tape thing,
right.
No.
So
it was a string symphonizer. They called it. I forget the name of the brand.
Was it like this? You know, the ARP Selena. You know what that is?
It's the same idea.
Yeah,
it's the same idea, and it was on Keep on Dancing. It's on there playing the high string.
Okay,
line.
All right. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, it's a string line. That's where the strings came from. So we had a Wurlitzer electric piano. We had a mini Moog
doing the bass and the leads. And the solo.
Right. And a string symphonizer. That's it. An acoustic
That's it.
guitar.
Oh, that's another thing I was going to ask you about. I don't know too many disco records that have acoustic rhythm guitar instead of clean electric.
Right.
You know, am I crazy to ask?
No, you're right.
How many
Right.
records can you tell me, besides yours, to have acoustic rhythm guitar instead of the Nile Rodgers clean electric?
Right. Right.
Not too many.
Right. Not too many.
So
There
that
were-
was, you guys were kind of, maybe out of necessity, I don't know, but you got something a little special there with
Well,
that.
it was a touch of the Latin thing with the guitar. It was not a country guitar effect or a folk guitar.
Just-
It was more of a Latin kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think I must have heard either, I don't know, I must have heard a couple of tracks that had acoustic on it that worked. You know, that I said I could make that work. And then, to boot, I pop up on TV playing this acoustic guitar that if you turn the sound off, you know, it would be some folk singer like, if you could read my mind. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
could be something. So I want it to be opposite of what the average person was looking at disco. It's flamboyant and all that. That's all fine. But my approach was like, I'm into the music. And for some people that's boring. They want to see a show. But I
To
was
the
into
average
music.
person, it's boring. To somebody like me, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
And-
it's my approach to it.
And the other question about the approach to that song is, I don't know if I realized this right away, and it must have been years listening to that song, where during the choruses, you have the solo is playing underneath.
You know what? You're just too much, man.
I'm sorry, man.
You're just
But-
dissecting. You got all you.
How do you-
You're publicizing all my secrets.
How did you come up with, or, like, why would you have your solo playing underneath the chorus?
It's a total accident. Let me tell you about accidents, okay? In the creative process, I'm drawing something and it's a one-shot deal. I'm using oil. Oh, and I smeared something. Oh no! Now what do I do? Well, I can probably make that dirt extend on the bottom of the picture of the tree, and that's going to be the bark that came out there. You make a mistake and you work with it. All of a sudden, wait, I didn't plan on that. That's good. You have to be aware of what's happening in the creative process.
It's a happy accident here.
It's a happy accident. It's a
But-
Ouija board. It's going this way. Oh my God! Wait a minute.
But that's at the mixing phase, because you could have muted that during the
I could have
chorus.
muted it, but we must have left it on. I said, wait a minute.
It was way in the back.
Yeah, wait a minute. I said, leave it on, but leave it low.
It's
What-
the same solo, isn't it?
Yes, the same exact solo.
It's the same take.
Same exact solo.
Okay.
Same exact solo.
That's crazy, by the way. I don't think I've heard that in any other song.
Well, you're gonna hear. I have some.
It is pretty unorthodox when you think about it,
It is. It is. And
but it works.
It does. But here's the thing. I can't take 100% credit for that. Now that I'm thinking about it, and it's funny you bring up these little details.
These
that
little
were
details.
Stirring up Motown Records. Okay, I actually was in the studio about 2 years ago. I had to go to attend a friend's wedding in Detroit, and I said to my wife, we gotta, before we go home, we gotta check. We're right here. We gotta go see it. Just go to the house. They take it to the house, and then they let you loose. Go down 3 steps in the back where they built the cinder block. That's where it all happened. So I bring that up because under the Marvin Gaye music, a lot of the Marvin Gaye music, they let the sax player blow a solo from beginning to end of the song.
Ah.
He just blew whatever he wanted with the right chords, and they kept it underneath with some reverb. They kept it very low in the back, and it's just smudging around. You hear that tonality, but you can't pinpoint it.
It's there, but
It's
not.
there. It creates an ambiance. I knew about that then, and I didn't set out to do that.
But it just a happy accident, and you said,
Keep on Dancing on the master tape was not 7 minutes long.
you had to chop it together.
It was 3.5 minutes. And when I went back and I said, right here we need a solo. So when I created the solo, I took the same piece that had the chorus on it, keep on there,
and you soloed yeah.
and I did the solo. But then when I went back to put it together, I said, well, you could put that on low underneath. I mean, like, if you take it out, the whole record's ruined. Like, it's that underneath.
Right.
I just did it yesterday, and on something else. I'll
You did
play
the same
later.
approach,
Yeah.
and you played that solo. That was you on
Played
there.
everything. Yeah. I played every instrument on the record except the conga drum.
The timbali.
And timbali and conga was my friend Bill, who does, occasional Gary's Gang gigs with me now, retro shows. And Gary, who played the hi-hat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
When they play that at the clubs, at least the few times I've heard it recently, when that timbale part comes up,
Yeah,
everybody has to do the air timbale because we know where it's we know it's coming.
Yeah.
But okay, great. That's very interesting because I always wondered about that, like how that came about. But there it is, another one of those kind of happy accidents. How did it come about that you you had a relationship with Corey, obviously, to do that Jekyll and Hyde Genius of Love thing? Because I bought that record when it came out, but I guess I hadn't read the label in a while, and I looked at it recently and I said, oh shit.
Well, you know what? Me and Corey are friends, have been friends, always friends, whether we're in business together or not. As a corporation, we had a separation right before Keep on Dancing. I said, Corey, I want to do some things my way, a certain way, and I want to be friends. Let's just chill out, with the company and just do. And he went on to do Profile. So he started Profile Records, and he came to my garage, and he says, I got this record I bought from these guys. I paid them $1,500. It's called. They call themselves Run DMC. I said, okay. He goes, and I like the record, except there's this middle part I don't like. I want you to edit it out like, it's a song called I Like That, and that's the way it is. I like that. So I put it on the reel. I listened to it. Said, there's no music. Because don't forget, we're used to Rapper's Delight, using a track and rapping over it. There's no music. There's no musicality.
You played on that? I didn't know.
No, I didn't play anything.
Oh, okay.
I didn't play anything.
No, it's like that.
No, I didn't play anything.
Okay.
He brought the tape over. It was done already. No, he bought the master. But he just wanted me to edit out this section. That it went to this certain section that just dragged on forever. So, with the razor blade, whoop, 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 mark it, take it out, listen to it, play it, and that's it. And that's it, And I did it for him, and that was it. So we put the record out, and the rest is history. It just, the first rap record with no music, if you recall, it was just a beat.
Pretty much. It had those the little stabs.
Yeah,
there wasn't much of a melody going on there.
No, there's no chords.
But with the Genius of Love thing, that you had to you recreated the whole arrangement.
Yes.
That's all you on there.
Yes.
Bass guitar.
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
That LM1. Yeah. Not much to it, but you had to put it together.
Yeah. So what was Corey had Corey was good. Corey had a concept. He says, "All right, listen, we got these guys. We're gonna do a rap. They're great guys. They live near you. They're right around the corner. So if we can do that Tom Tom Club groove, just copy that and have them rap over it. That's all it was."
Did they get permission to do that at the time?
I don't know that you need permission. You just pay the statutory rate.
Okay, because back then we didn't have the whole sampling law wasn't in effect, but that was more of a cover anyway.
It wasn't
we
a sample.
created
It
it.
was created.
Yeah.
Well, we made sure we created the music.
Absolutely. No, you can tell it's not the original record.
It's not the original.
I hate when people conflate sampling with recreating. They're two different processes, folks.
Right.
What Joe did. He recreated that shit. He did not sample it. You didn't have phrase samplers back then anyway, except for the Fairlight, but it couldn't have done what that did. So you had to recreate that. Those guys rapped over it. And I remember that came out not too long after the Genius of Love original came out. It came out like months after that.
What, the Genius Rap?
Yours, yeah.
Right.
It was very soon.
The whole record took 10 hours. Okay, we're talking about, we did cover the track quickly. Corey says the guys are coming at 6:30, 7 o'clock. They're going to get off the A train, which was the last stop of the A train was near my house. They walked a block and a half. Okay, they did the rap, did the mix. It's now 12 midnight. Corey says, all right, just give me a copy.
Oh, the mix was already done too?
Yeah. Just give me a copy. Yeah, because I had the track I started the track in the in the middle of the afternoon. Okay, did it. Got a nice mix on it. All I needed was them to rap on it, and it was already sitting on the board.
Got it.
So I did it. I mean, probably we remixed the finished record better, like later, the next day or something. But not
Soon after that.
But not much.
Not much.
Yeah. But my point is, he took a mix with him, and he went back to the city. He went to BLS, and at 2 a.m. he was on Mr. Magic's Rap Attack,
They played the tape.
which is a rap show that went on from 2 to 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Played it. Maybe by 3 o'clock he played it. Bang, put the tape on.
And that was done at your studio, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then they pressed the record up.
Yeah,
and
then Corey just went with it and put it out. It did like 150,000
that many
units. Yeah, he did a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it really helped. Really helped launch. This was prior to Run DMC, actually.
It was 81.
It was prior. I had it
81.
backwards. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
That's the record I was looking for in my studio the other night. Couldn't find it, but I have it.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and that bass guitar on there is mixed really up front, and it's got a lot of bottom for 1981.
Well,
that bass guitar.
I tried to mimic the mix of the original record. I mean, I play bass guitar too.
That's you on there, okay. All of it.
Compress it a little bit, and you try to do the best you can. And then part 2 of that is the Disco 4 with Whip It.
Oh, yes, that one, sure.
That was the follow-up. It didn't do 150,000 12-inch units, but it did good.
It did okay.
It did good.
And you had to recreate that just like you did
the
with
same thing. Project, let's do it again. So nice, let's do it twice.
With the same equipment, pretty
equipment.
much.
The
The Lin, Prophet 5, and this, was it 16 tracks still, or did you graduate to 24 at that?
That point was 16.
So you were still using that machine you bought during the Gary's Gang years?
Yes.
So until that machine died, or you upgraded, or
I
whatever?
think my first project on 24 was the Cinnamon Project, thanks to you.
And that was also at your studio? It wasn't. You weren't going to other studios?
No. I went from my little part of that garage with that, and I moved into the big room, and now the big room became the studio, and the little room became the performing room, where it used to be the control room was small, and the big room was
right.
was the performance room.
So you must have had a lot of soundproofing going on.
Yeah, more or less, but you can't soundproof bass, in a garage. The high end and cymbals and all that stuff, fine, but you'll still hear like a muddled sound.
And the neighbors, you kept them at bay because you said Dick Clark used to do it during the day, the session, so you wouldn't have the neighbors coming after you.
Yeah, but that's not true. That was an outright lie. Because we would do it at night, and you know what? I was there. I was living in it. My grandmother bought the house, so we were like kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to live next to that guy with the music, you're gonna have to deal with it. The same way I deal with the guy 2 doors down who's spray painting, doing body work on the car.
Nice.
Spray with red paint is flying in the air.
Nice.
So that's the way. That's the way things were. You did what you had to do.
Wow. So all right.
Eyewitness News came to the backyard. Eyewitness News. ABC pulls up to do an interview with Gary's Gang. We hear that he came. Because it was ABC, Dick Clark. It was all connected. It was New York.
And they couldn't believe you made a record in your garage.
Yeah, they went to the backyard, and this clothesline.
They couldn't believe it, right?
The clothesline from the neighbor was hanging.
Yeah.
So she's talking with the mic under a grapevine. Here's the garage door, and there's the clothes, the sheets, and the pajamas are hanging on the. It was interesting. It was fun.
Wow. No, because like I said, how many people back then were making records at home? You really had to know what you're doing. And you had to have the money.
Todd Rundgren also was
right. He did.
Was like an idol of mine in a sense. Like it came out that hello, it's me. He played everything on it. So I knew that was possible. Like and there was nobody else around. So figure it out.
But you couldn't have afforded to go into big studios at that time.
No, not at all.
And would you want to blow all your money on that anyway?
Not at all. It's too risky. Not at all. I wanted to kind of
do it yourself. DIY.
Yeah, and I knew that I felt very satisfied when I walked into Reeno Manetti's basement on a Saturday. Keep on Dancing was already on KTU and BLS, playing a lot, but I never had a record on WABC. Hey, this is Cousin Brucey on WABC.
You crossed over.
With the reverb and all the AM mono and all that. All of a sudden, we're in this I walked to his house, for no reason to just hang out. He's doing some project on a bench, woodworking in his basement. He's got a fluorescent light there. He's got the radio on with that buzz from the fluorescent light, and all of a sudden I hear did it, Reeno. we're on. It's Harry Harrison on WABC. You know, it's 20 minutes after 10. You know, something new from Gary's. You know, and I heard the 3.5-minute cut on AM with static, compressed with reverb.
AM radio.
AM radio, static, compressed with reverb. That was my dream, though.
Dude, you made it.
I wanted to hear
made
myself on that crappy, you know, distorted broadcast.
Compressed with all
Right,
that shit.
with everything I ever heard prior to that. That's
that
how
was
I
your
heard it.
yeah. That's your
You know,
childhood
the
right
Rascals,
there. Yeah.
the Motowns, the Stylistics, the Petty Tendergrass. You know.
So that did it for you. With that, you're like, oh, this is better than sex. Well, whatever.
At that moment, I could admit it. At that moment, yes.
At that moment,
Give me 3.5 minutes. That was it. You know? Now you could kill me. Okay, we did it. Went from nobody, from nowhere, you know, and here we are, and we did it. You know, we got a piece of work that's accepted by a lot of people, and that felt good.
Absolutely. What's better than that?
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of pictures to look at that I'm sure I haven't seen before. So let's cut for a second. But actually maybe we don't have to cut. I brought these 2 of your things that you did.
Yes.
And I brought something you can write on. Reeno, Eric Matthew, Joe Tucci, aka Eric Matthew.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
To Reeno.
Keep it simple. Whatever you want.
Okay, I got it. Okay, here we go.
Which is another question. How do you go from Joe Tucci to Eric Matthew?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Why not Matthews? All right.
So here's the deal with the name. I'm doing business out of an Archie Bunker house right off the street in Queens. It's a registered company. The address is there. If I use my real name, I can be looked up. Who knows? I just don't want any weirdos coming to the house and disrupting my life. Who knows? At that time, it was just, didn't know. And at that time, you know, there were a lot of pen names, stage names, and better sounding names than Joe Tucci, you know? So what basically happened, well, that sounds cool now, but then it was different.
Right.
I had a dog, and his name was Eric. So Eric was my dog. And I thought Eric was a little bit, you know, like Norwegian and Viking and strong. Eric, you know, Eric. And then I said, well, the part of me is like strong and, you know, but there's a soft part of me. I need a name that's soft, like Matthew. Matthew. Not Matthews, you know, like Chris Matthews or something. Matthew. So I said, let's see how that works. Eric Matthew. It sounds like a clothes designer. Eric Matthews men's suits, you know. And being in the band business prior to that for 10 years, playing with all these guys and, you know, for private parties, they all had 2 front names, you know, like Joe, David, and David John. You know, they had these 2 first names. It was like a big thing then, I don't know what, you know. So that's how it came to be. I said, let me just create a pseudonym to kind of protect my identity and keep it low-key for a while. It sounds pretty cool. So Eric Matthew. It became a thing. You know, everybody knew me as Eric Matthew. But then as life changed, the world changed. There's a million people with all kinds of different names. I said, well, hey, you know what? I'm Italian, you know, Italian-American. Tucci, Gucci, Stanley Tucci, you know, Stanley Tucci.
No relation, by the way.
No relation. But Stanley Tucci? You know, so Joe Tucci isn't too bad. Giuseppe Tucci.
Or was it Joey Tucci?
No, Joey. I was never a Joey.
You're a Joe.
I'm a Joe.
Okay.
You know,
I figured
I
that.
might have wanted to be a Joey, but nobody called me Joey. My mother called me Joe. Joe, come in to eat, you know. But
Was she a good cook?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she was very good.
Of course.
You can see.
Italian,
I try to fight it every day. So Joe Tucci was my real name, and then, you know, I just came up with the pen name. So I'm registered as a writer, both names, and that clarifies that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and let's face it, I mean, having a stage name makes sense, even back then. I mean, look at Donna Summer. Well, she took her husband's name Somer, but she made it Summer. The thing that makes me irate is that everyone says Summers, and I'm always correcting people. No, it's Summer.
No, it's Summer.
And they do that with your name, too, on the YouTube videos where people, oh, Eric Matthews did this. I'm like, no, right. Eric Matthew did this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is.
It's a minor mistake.
A minor mistake. But anyway, let's take a look at some of these pictures and
Let me see
studio
what I
shots.
got. I got to see what I got.
This is the machine that the majority of his records were mixed down to, and it's a 1/4-inch reel-to-reel TAC machine. Who would have? Yeah, you never did 1/2-inch, but wasn't that the industry standard at the time?
That was always substandard.
Wow, and this is the actual machine. Holy cow! That's the mini Moog.
That's the mini Moog. Played the bass, dun, 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 dun,
the bass
and the solo.
and the solo.
Yes, yes.
You still have that, don't you?
That I don't have that. I don't have any of this.
You got rid of all the keyboards.
Yes.
Prophet 5 too. Gone.
Yes, gone.
Right. You know what? You know why I'm asking, right?
No.
If you had any of that stuff,
Right.
I would find money to buy it from you.
I would. You've been so nice. I would just give it to you.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Now here's a picture of the same TAC, right?
Yeah.
Mixed down. The 8-track board, and the 8-track 1-inch Ampex machine.
Oh wow! And that that had good bandwidth. That's
Yes, it
8
did.
tracks
Yes,
over 1
right.
inch. That's really.
And then I had the Roberts machine, the little reel-to-reel, which I had since I was 12. I have that in the other room. I still have that one. This machine, when the TAC 8-track came out on 1/2-inch tape, it was affordable. You know, it was, I don't know how much it was, but it was affordable. Everybody started buying them so they can overdub stuff. I sold this to a planetarium up in Westchester. They didn't want the little TAC. They wanted a
that.
strong machine for their space show. They had 8 different tracks with 8 different speakers coming out, almost like a surround sound effect.
Really?
And they had when they did a space show, they hit play and this track had all kinds of things going on. So that was that. Okay, now we're up to 24 tracks now.
And this is the Radar Prelude days here.
Yes, this is the Radar Prelude. Still in the same garage. But now we have an actual legitimate looking board.
Is that it? What is that? What kind of board is that?
Audio Technics, I think.
And scroll to the right. Was that the Prophet 5 sitting there? There it is.
There it is. There it is. There's the evidence.
And I heard it.
You knew it.
When did you buy that?
I don't know. Somewhere in the,
So I was going to
80,
So it's probably a Rev 3. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, it was
the
able
Rev
to.
2s are the other
It had 4 voices that I think.
5.
Five.
But there's a Rev 2 and a Rev 3. The Rev 3 use different chips, but we don't have to get into that.
Okay.
Okay, so
this is the control panel of the 24-track
very
machine.
nice. Ah,
This was the remote.
the remote.
Which way is it? That way. Yeah. The
And
remote.
Working on 24 tracks, even though it was only an extra 8, it did feel like you had a lot more leeway.
Well, now you're compatible to the rest of the world. If Shep Pettibone or Francois said, "Give me the multi-track," you could go to another studio, a better studio, and just go for it. So we were compatible in that way.
What about the Maniacs who used to sync 2 24-track machines together and get 48?
Yes, well, there's always
Sharon.
those maniacs. Yeah, of course. Well,
Quincy
that's how.
Jones,
Well, actually, the album by Simon and Garfunkel, Bookends, was an album, and CBS Columbia Studios bolted 2 8-tracks together to get 16. But you lose 2 tracks. You got a sync track on each one, so you're down to 14. And they use the elevator shaft for The Boxer, this song called The Boxer, where it goes, lie, la, lie.
Yeah. Really, that's how
Lie,
they did that?
it's in the elevator shaft. They had a mic at the top and a speaker at the bottom, and the distance in the building created the reverb.
That's
Like
amazing.
Motown used their attic for the reverb.
Really?
The guy
They
showed
didn't
us
use a spring reverb unit?
No. They used their attic for that
okay.
reverb. Yeah, they put a speaker at the end and a mic.
Who knew?
So anyway, here we are with the Prophet 5
Look at that.
and me sweating it out. Patch Bay on the right, remote control.
So this is at the time you were on your own, and you're very active. You're doing stuff for all those labels we talked about.
Yep, waking up in the morning, figuring out, oh my God, what do I got to do? This was actually the string players that were on the Sharon Red project, or that we were using real strings on, all of those.
How was it working with her?
She was a sweetheart. She was great.
Yeah.
She was great.
You did,
2 albums.
2 albums and 12 inches associated.
Yeah. She was so great. I said, "You want to get something to eat? A slice of pizza?" She go, "I'll just take a half."
Or she didn't like to eat?
Yeah, well, she didn't like to eat when she was singing, obviously, but she was very easy to work with. Every nuance, if I told her to go up, go down, she just followed it. And she kept going and punch. You know, we got
And,
it.
those records are great. The album cut that I like. It wasn't on 12 inches.
Yeah.
It's on the second album. It's a mid-tempo, Sweet Sensation.
Yeah, Sweet.
I like that cut,
yeah,
man. That
yeah.
should have been a single.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what can you do?
Well, I wasn't controlling the label. They did what they wanted.
Marvin Schlachter.
Marvin was a good guy. I liked Marvin. Marvin was a good guy. He used to come in. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you real quick how we got the Sharon Red deal.
Yeah.
Me and Daryl Payne, okay?
Yeah.
Came in with a record called "Never Gonna Give You Up."
Never
Gonna give you up. Yeah, I'll never stop. And we had a girl singing on the record.
It wasn't her.
No, it wasn't her. It was Daryl had a friend in the apartment building in the projects in the Bronx or something, and the girl was singing. So we walked into Schlachter, and he loved the song. He says, "You know what? I really like the record, but I got this artist that we have. We need a song for her." I said, "Well, Sharon Red. We could really. Would you mind putting her voice on the record?" So I looked at Daryl. I said, "Daryl, you're going to tell the girl that she's not on the record?" Long story short, he told the girl she wasn't on the record. She got very mad at Daryl, and that was the beginning of Sharon Red. So me and Daryl did the first album together, and then the second album, Daryl kind of was part-time. I'll leave it at that. And I was there every day doing it in my garage. And
those were really your records.
Yeah. So you said it, not me.
And then Beat the Street. It's funny. I didn't want to bring this up, but I think we have to. I was on the phone a few years back with Hubert Eves.
Yes.
Of D-Train.
Uh-huh.
Now, he didn't mention the song or you by name, but I knew what he was talking about.
He got mad at me.
Yes.
He got very mad at me.
He thought that you ripped him off. Well, he blamed the label. He didn't blame you. He said, now that I see how Prelude Records operated back then, and then I wanted to kill them because they did this. They ripped off my record. I said, look, the bass line phrase is similar in the first 4 notes. Then it changes. The synth, okay, so you borrow that. The rest of the arrangement is totally different, and the song is different. The melody's different. It's not the same song. So I think his case is a little bit.
Well, Hubert, I understand. He just overreacted because the way I feel about it is this: my inspiration was Howard Johnson. So fine, so fine, blow my mind, right? So that bass thing going on with the drums with no chords was very intriguing, and that was happening right then. I mean, even Evelyn Champagne King,
same guy.
Yeah,
Kashif.
Yeah. He was doing that too with the bass thing, right? So I said, we got to do this bass. That's happening. It's just a trendy thing that's happening. 10 records come out with that feel, and then the next trend happens and something big happens, and they roll on that. It was just a roll down from that. It wasn't aimed at him.
Right, but when he
it wasn't even on Prelude Records, because Reach Up was on my label.
Right, but Beat the Street, he was pissed about that one.
No, he was Beat the Street. Was he?
That's what he told me. He's picking up on the dun 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 dun, that little synth riff you did.
Gotta beat the street, you gotta beat the street. I didn't even get that.
Right, I don't get it either, but he thinks that it. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
now he approached you? Oh.
No, I heard it through the grapevine.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine put a new garage door in for him at his home. And, and my friend says, Joe, Hubert, that guy that did, he said, you know what? He knows you. He says you ripped him off on something. I said, well, like what? Which song, I wasn't ripping him off. I know D-Train had that thing with the bass, but Howard had it, already.
Everybody had it.
Yeah, everybody had it, and that's what the sound was. Just take that mute and make it muty.
Staccato.
Yeah, staccato, and make it groove. Get a groove going with the bass line.
Yeah. That's it. Love it. All by hand, not sequence.
Oh, by hand, yeah. But if it was off, I had to punch and fix it. I could listen to it. And say, ooh, you can't move it over.
No,
you can't put it in slip mode and just move it over.
And but then you kind of ripped off yourself when you did the "Love So Deep."
Yeah, I cloned it.
I
did a cheap trick, I said, well, if it worked for this, it worked.
Why not?
But the song wasn't as strong,
It didn't do as well.
See, me and Tony wrote Reach Up, and we had a message, It's like the message was if, we had Reach Out by the Four Tops, but Reach Up, it meant it wasn't like it was like a little more of a spiritual imagery. reach up, like
Right.
just reach up and be positive. You can do it and that kind of thing. And I thought people needed to hear that, and that's why it endured and it lasted and got a good reaction. We were doing the Kiss FM street cleanups on Saturday in the Bronx on the truck, and Tony and Status 4 would go up there with Radar Records and do the performance, and
Yeah.
Monday morning they're banging the record,
Yeah.
So if all you got to do is go to the Bronx and sing the song once, they're going to play the record. Let's do this, So that's how that went down.
That's how that went down. All right.
And of course, you still rolling?
Yeah.
At 12 years old, the Beatles came out, so I had to learn the guitar. At 12 years old, let's see, I was 53, 1965. I was 12. And I had to learn the guitar, She loves you.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
picked up the guitar. And, of course,
But you became pretty, no slouch on keys too.
no, I never gave up the keys. That's my home instrument. That's my basic instrument.
Oh,
But,
okay. And the guitar was the secondary.
Yeah,
okay.
secondary instrument. Like I'm not a great rock and roll solo guy, but rhythm, I'm funky.
Yeah, no, I know
Funky,
that.
I'm good with. So here I'm sitting there with the guitar, probably posing for a picture. But the reality was we were doing a rhythm track and something. It's in the room. Here's a
There's
picture
like a
when I went to
24.
24. I went for broke, man. I just went for like a second
Is
mortgage.
that a scooter? What is that?
No, it's 3M. I think it
Oh,
was
3M.
machine.
Okay.
Yeah, that loop thing.
I can't
so,
imagine what that cost back then.
No, it was a lot, man. It was 1,000 a track, so it was like 25 grand. Yeah, 24 grand. It's interesting because it just didn't have the quality the 16 track had.
Because the bandwidth.
The bandwidth wasn't there.
Yeah,
so
no,
it wasn't
no.
quite the same.
Yeah.
So
the
we have the
Reeno.
Moog, and what do we have down here? That looks. Is that
It looks like.
I don't know what that is.
Is that string machine you were telling me about?
Yeah,
No. Oh, that's an ARP something.
no,
No.
I don't know. I don't recall.
Whatever
that
it
one.
is, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
There's the LM1.
There it
Do I
is.
have a good ear or what? Come on.
You're fantastic, man.
Did anybody else call that before?
No.
It's the hand claps to give it away, and that snare.
What is this? Staples over here? What are those things? Earrings? Staples?
How much did you let that go for?
Oh God, I don't remember.
Before the market, came back for that.
Probably
Peanuts.
next to nothing,
Yeah.
man. I probably $200.
That makes me cringe.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. There we are back again with that one,
Yeah.
that one, and that's it with the studio.
Yeah, Eric Matthew, Joe Tucci, his real name, Eric Matthew. And it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you
That's
for
been a pleasure too.
thank you for having me over, and now you can get back to your regular life.